get it open.
Close. You just sign and stuff.
Oh, all right.
This for next time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta look it up. Okay. Oh,
I'll be here about.
all right. Good morning. I'm Dr. Laverne Lewis, TriMet's board president. Welcome to TriMet Board of Directors meeting for July 23rd, 2025. We are gathered again here today at One Main Place in our TriMet boardroom for our July business meeting. We are also live streaming our meeting on YouTube, and we'll have 4 board members in person this morning. And we had a small switch. Directors Frisbee and Directors Kim will be joining us virtually. There we go. Kathy Way's here. And Director Kellogg is on vacation. Thank you for being with us today, and we'll proceed with our public forum. We'll begin with those who are present and have those that have signed in to testify. Members of the public who wish to testify but could not be here may join us virtually, and we do have a virtual testimony so far this morning, just the one, okay? For those of you that are testifying for testimony, this morning, please make sure that your comments are directed to TriMet and are related to transit services rather than other topics. We also ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes and that you will note that there will be an indicator that help you to stay on task, and it also respects those that will be following you. If you're unable to limit your comments to 3 minutes, you may also provide comments in writing. TriMet staff can provide an email address to you to send your comments to the board as well. Also, we know that we greatly appreciate your testimony this morning. If you ask a question, request information, or raise an issue, it will be noted, and as usually and as always, our TriMet general manager will respond to you for comment. Those comments will not be coming from the board. So now we'll call up 2 at a time. To the table, Abby Griffith. Good morning, Abby. And is it Topler or Tipler Welsh? Topler. Thank you. Take your time.
Should I?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, you can proceed, Abby.
Thank you so much. My name is Abby Griffith. I was here last month too, inviting board members to the Week Without Driving event that I am hosting August 23rd at 11 a.m. And I sent a reminder invitation letter yesterday and the email with flyer attached. I hope you have it. I also have some printed flyers here for each members to keep it in the share and invite transit riders to be there. Thank you so much. And I have another story I want to share. That is my story. Last year I bought a house, and it took me a very long time to find a house that close to the bus stop. Having accessible transportation is very important for me. So I found a house close to the bus number 35, and I was excited and I'm happy until last week, almost 2 weeks ago. My friend who was visiting me saw the sign on the bus stop that says Willis and Newman bus stop will be removed. and my friend sent me text message saying, Abby, do you know that they're removing your bus stop? I'm like, please don't joke like that. That's not funny. And he was like, I'm not joking. You need to understand this. Is this happening? I started crying. He told me Thursday, almost 2 weeks from tomorrow. I started crying all day Thursday, all day Friday. I called here to TriMet. I sent a text message. I sent an email to my board member, to my district director, JT Flowers. I didn't hear back. And I've been still crying. And my bus stop being removed is my safety issue for me. Bus stop removed means I have to walk too far from my house at night. I am a student at PSU. I'm studying transportation planning degree. I take night classes. If I come home nighttime, if I have to walk 8 to 10 minutes, if something happens between bus stop and my house, I'll be actually going after TriMet because that's my safety issue. I've been attacked on the buses before. I came here last year. I remember that when I got attacked at bus 75 stop, my knee, they hurt my knee, and I ended up in Manual Hospital, and I got actually bail. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna be speaking a little bit more. I've been assaulted before, and if I walk too far and assaulted again, I'm gonna be suing TriMet because they should not be removing my bus stop that I bought house because of that bus stop, number 35. And also, I have a question for TriMet board members. When TriMet presents you with service cuts and bus stop removals, do you challenge them? Because they're very creative telling you what you want to hear. You don't challenge them. Why do you remove bus stop? Why do you cut services? You should challenge them. Don't just approve it. Why do they cut in service for us? Thank you so much. I don't want to cry because I cried enough. Here's the flyers. Please take it to your house.
Categories like lottery careers, alcohol, and other industries that profit from addiction. So TriMet is a public asset and a vital part of Portland's infrastructure. It should not be subsidized by companies whose business models actively undermine the health and well-being of our community. This is an extremely serious issue. Currently, there is an advertisement on TriMet, on the Max, that is misleading. So it is for Jackpocket, which is a lottery app, and the top prize says $80,000, and in the Scratch It section, it has $150,000 twice. So basically what happened is the Jackpocket probably switched their graphics and made a huge, huge error. This is a big issue. I cannot stress it enough. Texas has already banned lottery couriers like Jackpocket due to integrity concerns, and Oregon is actively considering similar regulations. In this context, TriMet has implicitly endorsed a company whose business model is to undermine consumer trust and public health. This is not the kind of partnership that Portland's public transit system should be making. And I want to add the alcohol also. Please consider removing alcohol ads. I've submitted a public comment to the Oregon Lottery Commission and contacted Jackpocket, Intersection, your advertising company, the Oregon Department of Justice Consumer Protection Division, the Federal Trade Commission, the Oregon Council on Problem Gambling, and the Willamette Week. A few days ago, I also emailed Lonnie Nielsen, who is the Director of Marketing and Business Development at TriMet. Since then, I've observed that many TriMet cars now have blank ad spaces. I'm not sure if this is a coincidence. However, I am still seeing the ad. I took the Max here today. That ad is still up. I urge the board to consider updating its advertising policy to exclude lottery couriers, alcohol, and other harmful industries. TriMet should be a platform for public benefit, not for companies that profit from addiction and deception. This is a serious issue anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Welch, and the general manager will follow up with you. Further information for the board, Felicia will be able to take that for you. You did?
I sent the images
Yes.
of the ad to the board testimony
To the-
at TriMet.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You all do great work, though.
Thank you. Our next person, Doug Allen. Oh, there you are.
Are we on? Okay.
You are on.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Dr. Lewis and
morning.
directors. My name is Doug Allen. I'm the Portland Area Vice President of AORTA, Association of Oregon Rail and Transit Advocates. I was aware of Abby's bus stop problem, and so that's what prompts my testimony. But I just want to start by saying I don't want you to misinterpret me as suggesting that the board should be micromanaging how TriMet works. What I would like is the board to advance some overall beliefs and procedures about evidence-based decision-making at TriMet. In fact, I would like TriMet to be kind of the thought leader in this community as far as evidence-based decisions about transit. And I've spoken in the past about the FX bus and asking that you do an independent analysis of the effectiveness of that. And I would like to see analysis of TriMet's bus stop policies. Decision-making at transit agencies are typically based on experience and common sense and intuition, and I think that's great, but it's not very transparent. So now I will go ahead and offer an anecdote that I think illuminates this problem. Some decades ago, while I was studying engineering at Portland State, I was hired for a summer at TriMet to ride buses counting passengers. And so I would, leave the bus garage at 4 a.m. and ride till noon, or ride till noon till midnight or whatever. And first I was puzzled. There would be bus stops seemingly in the middle of nowhere. I would think, why would anyone get on the bus here? But after some weeks of doing this, I realized that virtually every bus stop in the system at some time is used, and there's a reason for those bus stops to exist. And bus stops where no one's boarding do not slow down the buses. So it was my conclusion that there should be very careful consideration whenever a bus stop is removed, that they were put there for reasons. And there was a period where Bill Robertson was the chair of the TriMet Board of Directors, and he was advocating that TriMet focus on commuters. And I think that may have started this idea that we need to speed up the bus routes. And I think that's a great idea, but I think there's really no evidence that removing bus stops in the long run is really a good deal for the bus riders and for improving ridership. And so I'd like an analysis of the policies there. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. for testimony. The general manager and the board will certainly follow up on all comments and letters and with response. Do you? No. No. Want to? Okay. General manager does have a comment. No, we don't.
Just to let Abby know that Karina from our outreach will be meeting with you momentarily or at the end of this meeting. And then I just want to let the board know, I think this is for your information regarding the advertising policy. Because of the Oregon Supreme Court decision, we essentially, we are limited on what we can and can't do due to that decision that's made. And I'll share that decision with you afterwards.
Thank you, General Manager Sam Dessou.
Can I follow up quickly on Abby's comment as well, which is,
As a board, we will not be following up on testimony this morning.
okay, she just said that she sent in emails, and I don't know about anyone else, but they're not in my inbox. So I just wanted to know she has a
Okay.
communication.
Okay. Please go ahead and respond to her with your email. Okay, thank you. We do have one testimony this morning that's virtual. Is she there? They haven't signed up. Okay, they have not signed up. If they do, can you let us know if that's possible? Okay. Okay. Are there any other testimonies this morning? Okay, thank you. We will now proceed with our board report section of our business meeting, and thank you again to those who have come before us for testimony. I will begin with Director Graham to present a report from the recent committee of CAT, Committee on Accessible Transportation. Director Graham.
Thank you, and good morning. It was a really well-attended meeting, and we actually discussed bus stop removal and notification in that meeting. And I know that Eileen and the staff are following up because we recognized also that we wanted to evaluate our processes for engaging community and making sure that those processes were inclusive of everyone. The meeting also provided an overview of several of the major projects underway. And I think many of those have been part of an ongoing discussion with the CAT. And sorry, I'm just going to reference my notes here real quickly. I think that the, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So we also had talked about our safety and security and got a safety and security update. And really thinking about how safety and security processes are engaging everyone at TriMet in the ways that we, or excuse me, everyone in the community in the ways that we create the approach and then how it's implemented. And so there are new safety response teams, as many of you know, and a new smartphone app. And those are things that the CAT is providing input in and how those are used. The LIFT committee provided an update on LIFT eligibility teams' efforts to reduce barriers to paratransit eligibility. And the fixed route subcommittee is seeking an internal update on the efforts to improve safety in the outer Powell corridor. So those are the primary things. I will also note that the wayfinding subcommittee provided an update on their FY26 goals, including adding beacons to locate the Falcon text-to-speech devices for service information and future efforts to include Spanish language as well. The 82nd Avenue Community Advisory Committee co-chair provided an update that the CAC is taking the summer off, and the last meeting involved supporting full business access transit lines. And then the staff provided a number of updates, including IRA to provide live stream visual wayfinding for blind and low vision riders, and the efforts of the ATP team undertaking with the Accessible Transportation Fund Advisory Committee to partners to coordinate services, including reciprocal paratransit eligibility with neighboring transit districts, funding services for older adults and people with disabilities through ride connection in underserved areas, funding Clackamas County Transportation Reaching People program services in Clackamas County for older adults, and partnering with Oregon DHS for service to homebound seniors and people with disabilities in Washington County. And then Justin announced there is an impact conference in October that will have scholarships available to interested folks. And the 35th anniversary of the ADA celebration will be Friday, July 25th at the Jan Campbell Transit Center from 10:30 to 2. That's it. It was a lot in the meeting, or a lot of updates, and the committees are doing really great work. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Erin. Are there any questions, comments for Erin? Okay, hopefully the board will be able to attend the celebration of the ADA at Jan Campbell's building on Friday. Thank you. Next, I'll ask Director Flowers to present a report from the recent meeting of the Metro Policy Advisory, MAC.
Sure. Thank you so much, President Lewis. And I know we have a policy of not commenting on public testimony, but I just wanted to say, given I feel this is an exceptional circumstance, Abby, I was able to dig through my email. It seems your email was filtered into my junk folder. I just went and saw it. I'm sorry for not getting back to you last week. But you have my word that I will do everything humanly possible in my power to make sure that your bus stop is protected. You know, I'm reminded of this anecdote, a story from Japan. There was a rail line, actually, that ran through a remote part of a more rural region in the country. And only one college student got on at that stop every single day for years so that she could go to school. Her stop was planned to be eliminated, and the owner of the rail service made a very intentional decision to maintain that stop so that this student could get back and forth to school every day. I think we have a similar responsibility to the people who rely on our services and on our system to get around on a daily basis. And your case is no exception to that rule. So you have my word that we will absolutely go to war to make sure that your stop stays where it is, okay? On the impact front, we talked about a couple things. There were two discussions about the LPAs for the Montgomery Park extension of the streetcar system and also the TV Highway Transit and Safety Project. Both of those were approved. I will say there was a bit of back and forth on the Montgomery Park streetcar extension conversation. There were several stakeholders, particularly from smaller towns and cities across the region, who took a few shots at the efficacy and efficiency of the streetcar system, and it feels like it would be appropriate for us as, you know, the leaders of the state's largest transit agency to remind folks of the paramount importance of other modes like streetcar, right? Though it might not be as fast as a bus or a MAX train, streetcar is a piece of permanent infrastructure that is really catalytic from a development perspective. And when we look at the future of our city and our state, we're going to have to continue developing that density. Streetcar is a really fantastic mode for encouraging that type of development. But it flagged, I think, for me, a broader need to make sure that we're consistently communicating the importance of all the modes. They're not just important because they get people from point A to point B. They're also important in the sense of what they catalyze in the local regions that these modes run through. So felt like that was important to flag. There was also an update on their placemaking grant programs, the grant programs that Metro is running. We had some presentations from a couple business owners and grant recipients that were fantastic. And the next impact meeting is actually tonight. And it looks like they'll be offering a state legislative update from the recently concluded session. I would imagine they'll also include some sort of update about the impending special session that the governor has just announced as of yesterday or a couple of days ago, which will no doubt affect all the conversations we're having here.
Thank you, Director JT. Any follow-up questions from the board? No? Okay. Thank you. Director Kellogg and myself attended the rail conference in June in San Francisco. Director Kellogg's not here. I'll have him provide his report in our next board meeting, September. But I will share a few items. It was an awesome conference supported by BART, San Francisco, kind of my hometown, and San Francisco Muni. Some of the key takeaways I will bring myself is the fact of agencies telling their story into the communities and how we build our infrastructure. Also, there was a common theme in the conference of doing more with less. And I think we all, even with TriMet and many of the other transit agencies across the nation, are sharing that same dilemma, and basically how we steward our public dollars. The other takeaway that I had was the negative perceptions of safety in our communities and how other transit agencies are addressing that. BART has BART Watch, and don't know how they do it, but they actually have members of their BART that shuttle their elevators. We use our hop card, but they actually had physical people that move their elevators for their transit agencies. Another item is they have the QR codes for reporting in their trains and at their stations, which was, bathroom and attendant elevators. They were one of the few agencies that actually have public bathrooms in one of them, especially the main stations there. One of their largest, which they shared, and I had a lot of conversation with other members of other transit agencies that were there, is the public's observation of fare evasion. That is really key and top piece on dissatisfaction with our customers on seeing and how that functions. And I know that our executive director, Andrew, is working on that. And then just for myself, I had the opportunity of visiting the Nintendo store. It's only 2 in the nation, New York and San Francisco, and I boldly woke and rode the cable car to the Nintendo store. I'm a kid at heart, what can I say? Moving along, any questions on that? No? Okay. Something else happened at that was very emotional, very, very heartfelt, is that TriMet received, I think it's our 3rd, if I remember correctly, our 3rd award. And I'd like Andrew to come up. Okay. While Andrew's coming up, it's our 3rd year in a row receiving the APTA, which is American Public Transportation Association Award. It's the Gold Award. Andrew went up on stage. We proudly at our table cheered him on. We were very loud, made sure we were heard. Andrew, can you share a little bit with the board about the award?
Yeah, this was a great honor. It's a huge testament to all the hard work of our department in safety and security, the leadership of our department, and as well as just the focus that TriMet has put on safety and security and is being recognized for that nationally. So I really appreciate Sam's focus on this and support of us. It's been constant for these last 3 years, but we are seen as an industry leader. This is 3rd year in a row. I talked with Polly Hansen when I was down there, who is kind of over safety and security for APTA nationally, and she said, I really didn't want to give you the award this year because you've gotten it the prior 2 years, but you really had a compelling case with our Security Operations Center, which is really, I think, adding a lot of value for riders. It does give them tools to be able to connect with folks in our security department 24 hours a day with apps, as well as by email and by telephone and calling 238-RIDE. So that was a very special occasion for us to receive that award. We did put together a video, and we honored my friend Pat Williams, who passed very tragically a little over a month and a half ago now. and we miss him every day in our department. He was a key leader and a key contributor to so many good things, and we recognized him at that event as well. I did attend the security roundtable, which precedes that for a couple days just before the rail conference, and we honored him there as well. And a lot of those folks were very impacted by Pat's passing. So there was some difficulty with that, but there was also some real good triumph for the team and a continued focus for TriMet on safety and security, which is, again, seen nationally. So that was special.
As TriMet's general manager and a daily rider myself, I am proud of what we've accomplished over the past few years. And I thank APTA for honoring TriMet with our 3rd consecutive Gold Award for efforts to enhance transit security.
In the face of mounting security pressures across the public transit industry, TriMet has built the most robust safety and security operations we've ever had. I'm here at the heart of the ongoing mission to make our transit system safe and welcoming for all. It's the nerve center from which we field reports from riders through our new security hotline and blue light phones, as well as from employees. Within 8 months' time, the Security Operations Center coordinated 12,500 responses, half of them coming from rider calls to our security hotline. Using more than 3,000 live feed surveillance cameras and integrated communications platforms, dispatchers at the Security Operations Center verify what's happening and deploy safety, security, and cleaning staff in real time. Instrumental in the creation of this center was our Director of Security and Emergency Management, Pat Williams. Pat Williams passed away unexpectedly about a month ago. Pat was a bold presence with big ideas and boundless commitment to making our public transit system a safer place.
We are indebted to Pat's leadership and will carry him with us as we take the next steps in advancing security on TriMet.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we will now turn to Director Graham again to give a report for APTA conference for board members and board administrators, which she and I both attended, just arrived home yesterday from Kansas City, Missouri. They made it point to say which Kansas City. Director Graham.
Thank you. It was a pretty incredible conference. It was my first APTA conference that I've attended, and it was, as Liver mentioned, for board members and administrators of boards, and there were people there from across the country. So we learned about and heard more about ideas around safety, ideas around federal funding and the federal funding landscape and predictions around continued investments in transportation, which sounded a little bit more positive in that environment than I've heard, and some predictions, although of course nobody knows, that there will be some ongoing and continued investments in transportation in the current administration. But a lot of the conference focused on governance and models for governance and partnership with the general manager, and how we strategically guide agencies through this kind of landscape when there is a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of the agencies around the country are experiencing what we are in terms of a slow return to ridership, or the levels of ridership that we had pre-pandemic. Challenges in the funding mechanisms, and also challenges to the uncertainty related to capital projects. So it was, I guess, great to have company to talk about all of those things in a group of people who are very smart, incredibly dedicated, and really willing to share best practices from their agencies. So I learned a lot. I felt very privileged to be there. and to get to know people across the country. And I've also felt very proud of TriMet because as soon as I told people who I was representing in that meeting, everyone said, "Oh, TriMet." I mean, it was the continuous response. And so the reputation of this agency is really great among the other agencies across the country. So I just want to say congratulations to all of you for that. It made me feel proud to be there. Thank you.
Any questions for Erin? I'll continue my part. We had an awful great time of representing TriMet. We are pretty much leaders, and I was proud to be able to check off the do's and don'ts of board members and how boards should function. There is a lot of changes in the old governance model. We had a keynote speaker that spent an enormous amount of time with DART and brought some excellent information in his presentation. One of my highlights was the TOD tour. Very impressive. In just a few items, we toured, it was about a 2-hour tour on one of their buses, of course. But one of the TOD presentations was 192 units of affordable housing, and that Kansas City's transit actually owns the site and has a bus stop that enters into the lower portion of that facility. They've also purchased a hotel and is converting it into 80 jobs and bringing when the World Cup comes in, so they are prepping for the World Cup. It will also have bus, bike share, and access to the streetcar. Another center that they have is they're sharing it with their operators and buses where they actually have the first lower floor, and it will house 226 units. And what was interesting is across the street was Kansas, and on one side was Missouri, and the center here will serve as their huge medical center, so you can walk into the next state. Very, very impressive. And then last is 48 units in the BIPOC community that will house only BIPOC businesses. It's 10,000 commercial spaces, with job development and a training facility for and staff for Kansas City. So it was a very, very impressive TOD. Hopefully we can look at some of their models and add to our development in TOD programming. Okay. All right. Thank you for everyone for your reports this morning. Next on our board agenda, we have a report card. If you would like to come up, where is it, Director Alan Lato? Okay. While Alan is making his way up, to remind the board that you received a copy of this report in your packet. These are the 15 different deliverables that are part of the performance objectives the board set for the general manager last year and covered the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Alan, can you take us, are you ready? Yep, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, President Lewis and members of the board. And you pretty much gave the introduction on what we're doing here. So these are the GM deliverables for FY25, which ended June 30th, 2025. And you should have this in your packet, but it is basically a table showing each of the deliverables, numbered 1 through 15, and the status on each one. And just to spoil the whole thing, there's a lot of green and a lot of completion and good news on this. So it's a good way to start the meeting, I think. So just to quickly talk you through these, number one was to continue to fully and implement our strategy and actions. At the time, we were using the term Vision 2030. Of course, we have shifted to talking about TriMet 2030, but happy to say that we have made a lot of progress with that, and we have the goals and strategies identified, and we're shifting into defining actions and moving forward with action teams. But for each of these, you can see that we've identified, we had the completion of service enhancements, the completion of the board strategy session, and then the three other items are really being developed forward by the TriMet 2030 process, which the executive team and Sam have been spending a lot of time on, I know because I've been in a lot of it over the past months. Number two, in terms of enhancing safety through presence on the system, all three complete. So we've exceeded the number of transit security officers. We also have the customer safety officers and the safety response team in the field. The security personnel staffing levels are now able to cover 75% of trains, which exceeds the target there and is a great ability for us to have presence on the system. And the number of fare enforcement activity checks actually increased by over 56% compared to the previous year, which is a big change. And then very happy to talk about number three, the enhanced cleanliness. A mid-year check on this. We weren't not at the targets for all of these, but the maintenance team has worked really hard and has been able to actually get enough staff on board so that all of these are complete. We're meeting or exceeding all of the targets. Then on number four, this is about hire and retention, of operator service workers and others necessary to provide service. And all of these are complete. Two of them we've marked as functionally complete. The staffing is essentially full. We didn't necessarily hit the exact number, but we have met the need, which is the positions are full. Number five is, of course, the Better Red Line Max project, which opened in September and has been continuing to provide service and was completed on time and under budget. Number six is the Hollywood Hub project. The phase one construction is complete, and the groundbreaking for phase two, which is the affordable housing component, happened back in January. Number seven, which is about engagement, each of these is complete. We've had the engagement events in each district, the connections with community partners, the connections with business organizations, and the Title VI update, and you'll actually get an update on part of that at the end of this meeting. Then on number 8, this is the Type 6 light rail vehicles, and I'm very happy to say that despite some issues with the readiness of the vehicles as we were receiving them, we have worked through that, and we now have 12 in service out in the system, and more coming. Number 9, the strategic financial plan. You amended that at the last board meeting in June. The strategic financial plan, that was the strategic financial plan and the fare strategy that came along with it. And then, of course, the budget adopted in May, which complies with all of the requirements and expectations, especially under Oregon budget law. Number 10, the DBE program and diversity. All 3 of these elements are complete. Those 2 major events were held. The board education sessions were held, and the Making Connections, which is part of our strategic plan, have been expanded throughout the agency, and we have very active employee resource groups. Number 11, recognize and celebrate employees. We've completed each of these events to really recognize the value and the contributions of each of our employees. Then, did I skip one? Yeah, number 12, in terms of succession planning, complete. The Chief Strategy and Planning Officer has been on board and was really instrumental in driving the TriMet 2030 work. The Executive Director of Engineering and Construction is under interview process right now. and all of the succession elements have been completed and moving forward. In number 13, general manager outreach. There have been many more meetings even than identified here, but Sam has been out and about in the community and meeting with leaders and trying to make headway on all the benefits that TriMet provides and all the needs that we have. Number 14, obviously more your judgment than mine, but in terms of identifying specific targets, all of these are complete in terms of maintaining positive board relations, regular meetings, the board retreat, 3 events, the strategy session, the education sessions, a number of site tours, and I realized this morning this doesn't have the Interstate Bridge project, which also was toured by several board members, and then the weekly updates, of course, continue. And then finally, number 15, personal development. These 2 items completed. Sam is an active in the coaching and in the APTA board of directors. And that concludes the update for the general manager deliverables for FY 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Leto. Any questions, comments, feedback of the board? No? Okay. Just want to remind the board, Team 1, which is on the deliverables, that is our last piece. Team 1, which is Directors Graham and Kellogg. And then we do have a meeting coming up with Team 2 for the deliverables going forward with Director Flowers and Frisbee. That's coming up. Thank you. Okay. Now we'll turn to our general manager for his monthly report. General manager.
Test 1, 2. Okay, much better. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me just take a moment and just kind of back up for a minute so that everyone can hear. First of all, good morning. Welcome. My report this morning will be dedicated to an update for you, the board, and our community on actions we are taking to balance our budget. As you know, TriMet is currently operating in a financial deficit. And yes, we are using our reserves to cover the deficit. Those reserves buy us time, but they are not unlimited. Without meaningful action, we are facing a significant financial cliff as we approach 2030 and 2031 timeframe. This cliff will only worsen, and the cuts will only deepen if no action is taken. While the Oregon Transportation Bill would have helped address some of our long-term needs and brought us more time to act, even with the bill's passage, we would have been left with the funding gap. We are facing a $300 million structural deficit that must be solved, and we cannot wait. I want to say this again. We're facing a $300 million structural deficit that must be solved, and we cannot wait. That's why I'm taking swift actions and deliberate actions to balance our budget, both for today and for the long-term sustainability of our agency. The board has already taken the first step by adopting a fiscal year 26 budget that includes significant reductions to discretionary spending and operational adjustments. That budget helped lower the projected deficit and begins a multi-year approach to fiscal recovery. TriMet is committed to achieving a balanced budget by the start of fiscal year 2029, and that's July 1st of 2028. So a balanced budget means to TriMet is our expenditures are equal or less than our revenues. Or to put it another way, we are not spending more money than we're bringing in. So think of your home budgets that you operate with. We will all work to make sure our expenses are equal or less than the money we bring into our homes. We want to balance TriMet budget using a combination of targeted spending reductions and look to bring in additional revenue. But we're also making some tough decisions, starting with service change this winter and again in March of 2026. So let me walk you through each of these areas. To solve the $300 million deficit, we're looking to three things. One, we're going to save $159 million through service reductions. Two, we're going to save $93 million through operational spending reductions. These are costs not associated with service. And then the third one, we're going to develop $48 million in additional revenue. I do want to note to you, and I note, that if we are unsuccessful in gaining new revenue through a fare increase or through an increase in the STIF, we will need to make an additional $48 million in service and operational cuts. At this point, we're moving forward to reduce our overall service by 10% by the fall of 2027. And again, we will need to make deeper reductions beyond that if we do not balance our budget. And with the cuts to MAX and bus services, we have also associated service cuts on our Lyft paratransit service. These changes are difficult, but also necessary to balance the budget. We know, and I want to tell you, it's heartfelt for me as the leader of this organization and our executive team. We know the impact on our riders. And we're going to be working to communicate these changes clearly and compassionately with our riders. We will begin this fall cutting frequencies in the evenings and in the mornings on some frequent service bus lines. We're going to cut frequencies on our FX2 division at night. We're going to cut frequencies for up to 8 other bus lines. Another round will come in March of 2026. We plan to go out this fall to engage the community about those service reductions. Potential cuts could include eliminating some bus lines, cutting service in the evenings, and on other bus lines, and routing efficiency changes to others. We intend to truncate our MAX Green line so that it only serves between Clackamas Town Center and Gateway, where riders will need to transfer to continue on. We will also be working on additional cuts to follow that will bring our overall total service reduction to 10% on bus and MAX by fall of 2027. That includes cuts in frequency on at least a dozen bus lines, the elimination of additional lines or a portion of bus lines, and we will cut in frequencies on all MAX lines during some part of the day. We're also trimming costs across the agency, not just in operations tied to service. There will be no new discretionary spending or programs for the next 3 years internally, meaning that budgets will not grow except for contractual obligations. And we are actively reviewing contracts and identifying process efficiencies. As service levels decrease over the next 2 years, our workforce needs will also be reduced. We will need fewer operators, fewer maintenance staff, and support personnel to meet our operation needs. As feasible, we will work to allow operation staff reductions to happen through normal attrition. So I'm going to say this again so that everyone's hearing me. We will work to allow operation staff and reductions happen through normal attritions due to actions like promotions, resignations, or retirements. However, unfortunately, some layoffs are likely, including on the administrative side, where we will be doing an overall staffing analysis. I've already tapped HR to start this process to really right-size the agency. We're also making long overdue commitments to our state of good repair backlog. We have a system that's out there that's in great need of repair right now. And to prolong and push off those capital improvements, we need to make sure that we take care of them. We need to ensure that our infrastructure is maintained safely and responsibly. But even with this plan, we still need $700 million over the next 15 years to support capital investment and fleet replacement that's taking place. Revenue will also need to be part of the solution. We plan to propose an adult fare increase of 20 cents to become effective the fall of 2028 in alignment with our strategic financial plan, fare policy. We will also continue pursuing the stiff increase through legislative means, and we hope to receive the support of the governor. We are also looking at other areas where we are able to generate more revenue. You'll hear more about this in the next couple of weeks and the months ahead to include at our next board educational session. I will be sharing this plan with the board, with our employees, with our lawmakers, with the community, and with the media, effectively starting today. We will also meet with our community leaders and talk with them about the situation that we're faced with. I want to tell you that we understand, and I want to say this with heartfelt and compassion, we understand the difficult decisions, and we do not take them lightly. As we move through this process, we're committed to doing it with care, with compassion, and with transparency to all of you and to the public. That means listening to our riders, our community, and engaging our employees, and being thoughtful, very thoughtful about every step that we take. So even in the face of challenges, we can continue to serve this region safely, reliably, responsibly now, and well into the future. And by acting now, and as your chief executive of TriMet, we are putting TriMet on a stable path forward. So thank you. I want to invite Nancy, Claire, and JC up to the podium, and I want to be able to answer any of the questions from the board as we move forward here. And Ellen Leto, if you could be available if there are service questions that come up from the board.
Okay. Thank you, General Manager. I'll turn now to the board, raising for questions. Okay. And check the video. Okay. JT, we'll start with you.
Thank you, President Lewis. Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Just want to quickly articulate how devastating this is for not just this agency, but for the people who rely on our system. This is a generational failure by our state legislators to protect the priorities of working people in the Portland metro area and beyond. And we need to be treating it as such. If I'm not mistaken, there are a couple trade-offs we're evaluating right now, and I'd love to get a little bit further clarity on a couple of those things. And this could be for General Manager Dessou, it could be for the executive directors we have up at the dais here. Is it correct that we, in this structural gap reduction strategy, would need either a slight marginal increase in the STIF or the fare increases, but not both of those things simultaneously?
Director Flowers, thank you for that question. As we look at the funding gap, that 48 million that was Sam referred to earlier, that would be a combination of a stiff increase plus a fair increase, and then any other revenues that we might be able to increase or look at or develop.
Also, I want to just chime in, and I want to make sure that we're approaching this. No matter, we asked the state for a 0.36% increase in a stiff, we would still need to make cuts to our organization to balance our budget. That's not enough funding to balance the budget.
100% understand that. I'm wondering, would that increase be enough funding to avoid fare increases as well?
No, it would not. So if that increase doesn't come in at that level, we will have to take deeper cuts within our organization, including service and then the administrative side.
Thank you. And then I'm also wondering, these cuts to service and cuts to staff are hopefully going to be as limited as possible. Would you folks be able to speak to the way that we're partnering with staff and particularly with labor to make sure that we're doing this in a deliberate and collaborative way?
I have met with our leadership team. I have talked with staff over the last 4 months about if the transportation package fell, what actions that TriMet will be doing and taking as we move forward. I have informed lawmakers, both state level and local level, about what actions that we're going to take. I'm meeting with staff as well directly after this meeting this afternoon to have conversations. Regarding our processes, we are still working on them. I'll be coming back to the board in our September board educational retreat or discussion and having direct conversations with how we're going to proceed forward and get your input and feedback on next steps. But I want to let you know that out of all of the years that I've led this organization, this is very unfortunate news for all of us.
I appreciate that, General Manager Dessou. And the last question I want to, maybe less of a question, more of a suggestion. I think it piggybacks on the piece of feedback we got from Abby during public testimony a bit earlier. I think we also need to be hyper intentional about the way that we approach decisions about service reductions, stop eliminations, things of that nature, and make sure that community has a serious voice in that process. I don't know what the exact methodology should look like as I sit here and reflect right now, but want to make sure, again, we're doing that in a collaborative way because it is very easy, particularly when the gun is at an agency's head like it is at ours right now. And, we're not the only public agency facing decisions like this. ODOT just had to lay off over 500 folks, right? But it's very easy to turn people into numbers, right? Abstractions on a stat sheet. I want to make sure that as we go through this process, the humanity of the people on the other end of this system who rely on us and the work that you folks do so brilliantly every day is taken into full consideration.
I want to say to you and to the board, as we move through this process, start looking at everything, I want to give the board my commitment that we will do it with care, we will do it with compassion, and we will do it with transparency. We will work with the community and with the people as we move through this process.
Thank you, Director Flowers. Director Frisbee?
Thank you. And thank you, Sam, for the presentation. I want to echo, I think, Director Flowers' general comments of highlighting while we work through this process, keeping the people who are impacted and the people that we serve at the forefront of our minds, which I know this executive team does, but I think it's important to articulate. I am, I've been thinking about this a lot over the past 18 hours. And I think it's important for folks who are listening and watching to understand that this is an effort in response to the legislature's failure. And I want to be really clear. I consider it a deep failure that is impacting not only us, obviously, but cuts for every transit agency in Oregon, more significant cuts in most places than we're looking at, and every transportation agency. And those the cuts are not, at the end of the day, the cuts are about the people and whose lives are very significantly changed, and the service that gets delivered to the folks where they are living. I'm over in Central Oregon this week, where they might not plow the Santiam Pass, which will have huge economic impacts for the communities here. So the impacts are very significant. My bigger picture worry, which Sam, I know I've articulated to you, but I'm articulating again, is that transit agencies, if we do not grow, we die. Right? If we do not continue to provide service to our community, fewer and fewer people ride, and it becomes a downward spiral, both in terms of what we can offer and in terms of what people can take advantage of, and in terms of our employees and our staff and the quality of the product that we have. So I think that this is a prudent and smart adjustment at this moment. I think it's important for us to articulate that what we're trying to avoid is the ODOT or PBOT situation where we have to lay off huge percentages of our staff and drastically cut service overnight. This is a gradual approach to try to minimize that impact, and I appreciate that. But I want to do this in conjunction with a longer term plan for growth. Because if we do not increase our revenue, what that means, costs will continue to rise, labor costs will continue to rise, capital costs will continue to rise. We will cut service and cut service and cut service and cut service indefinitely. And that is how transit agencies wither. And I'm worried about that. I'm deeply worried about that. So I am very much hoping as we work through this, and I want to be clear for everyone listening, this is early, right? We are bringing you into this process early. And I appreciate that approach by TriMet. It is not how TriMet has historically operated. And I appreciate this cultural change. But I'm hoping that this is a two-part process, which looks at how do we avoid drastic sudden layoffs and service cuts? How do we do it smartly? How do we do it in a way that's intentional and that has the least impact on our community of employees and our community of riders? And what is our plan for growth so that we do not end up in a downward spiral?
Thank you, Director Frisbee. General Manager? Yeah, comment.
Board Director Frisbee, I really appreciate your comments, and you and I have spent quite a bit of time having this conversation back and forth. There's a piece that I do want to make sure it's clear to the public just as well as to the board. We have agreed upon 3 projects that will go forward. The 82nd Avenue project will continue to move forward to completion. We're going to move forward with the TV Highway project. That's going to move forward as well, and we're working with IBR to continue that project forward as well. So that growth will continue during this 3 years that we're trying to balance our budget. And regarding staff, I will immediately start calling lawmakers this afternoon, just as well as the governor. I plan on, along with our government team, actually being there when the special session is called to ensure that the lawmakers know that we're taking steps to take care of our own house, but we also need the help from the state to continue to move us forward.
Thank you, General Manager. Excuse me. Director Kim?
Thank you. Thank you all. This is a devastating decision for our riders and our employees and our community as a whole. None of us, I wish this wasn't the case. I know that's true for all of us. This is about TriMet survival, so that we can continue to be a mobility solution for our region for years to come, even if it's at a reduced scope for the time being, given our financial limitations for the foreseeable future. And my hope and resolve is that after these painful deep cuts, once we have a balanced budget moving forward, that we will ensure that our service level increase in projects are in alignment with our budget, so that we as an organization don't ever have to come to this again in the future. And of course, as my colleagues have alluded, we will work with our legislators and regional governments so that we can revert our service level reductions as soon as practicable, and so that the Oregonians can get to where they need to go. I appreciate Sam, and the rest of the TriMet executive team's leadership for this hard but necessary decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kim. General Manager, do you have any response?
Yeah, thank you, Vice President Kim. Really appreciate that. I just want to say, and I'll say it to the public as well, that I am truly heartbroken to make this announcement, so that you hear that from me as a leader, the chief executive of this organization. But I also know that we must take this action now to ensure long-term sustainability of our transit system. We want to be here for another 50 years to provide service to our region. And as we move through this process, as I committed myself and the executive team, we're going to do it with care and compassion and transparency, and that's a promise from me as your leader.
Thank you, General Manager. Director Graham?
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge how painful this is and how I appreciate the leadership. And though no one has said this, and we all kind of know it, this is the long tail of COVID also, in addition to the failures of our state leadership. And as Director Frisbee mentioned, I hope that while we are looking at a 3-year time frame for balancing the budget, we are thinking longer term about the changes in our region and the way that the agency will be here for our communities beyond that period. We know that the Portland area and the country, but really the Portland area is aging, and that transit and transit solutions are going to be extremely important for people to be able to age in their home and to have a higher quality of life and all of those things for our region. And so I hope that as we are considering all of the painful cuts to the various systems, that we are also retaining capacity so that we can grow in the areas where we know that demand will be increasing. And I think that though it's really hard to go through these periods and be thinking about how are we generating revenue, that has to be part of what we do. I mean, we have to keep our eye on ridership, and that's got to be part of this solution long term. And so it is extraordinarily difficult to be creative and to be forward-looking at the same time that you are making really challenging, painful, short-term decisions. But I hope that we can create the space to have those conversations about how we're continuing to invest in ridership, because I also believe that that will support long-term revenue from the state and feds and other sources as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Graham. I appreciate the comments. Ridership is one of the key strategies that we're going to look at, how we're going to enhance the customer experience, and then how we're going to attract and grow ridership to be able to get people onto the system. And I appreciate you making a comment as well about we arrived at this point due to many factors, but it was on the coattails of the pandemic. And we've been operating a deficit since the pandemic, since 2019. And we've seen cost inflation go up 53% as we move forward over that time frame. So it's time for us to do something with our house, as we've promised, and to balance our budget in the next 3 years. I think that we are going to be financial stewards of public funds, and it's going to put us on a path of long-term growth and sustainability.
Thank you, General Manager. Director Way.
Thank you. Just taking a deep breath. This was a lot this morning, as General Manager DeSue shared these slides to the public, to the community, to staff. And I just wholeheartedly agree with all of the comments that were made by my fellow board members about the heaviness of this news when we hear the word reductions in service and operations. And I want to underscore what Director Frisbee said about how important it is to really make thoughtful decisions, particularly around our services, around the bus lines, because that is what the public sees, right? When they see public transit in a city, in a neighborhood, in a suburb. I live in Happy Valley. They see bus stops. They see people getting to and from different places. And if we reduce that, which again, I know this isn't it's preliminary, the team's doing more research. I feel like that would be the demise. I'm hopeful, but I'm also a realist, and let's just say it for what it is. Those bus stops are gonna go away, those service lines are not gonna run as efficiently as possible, and people are gonna feel that in the community, whether or not they take transit or not. So I just want to offer that perspective. And from day one, I have also always believed in my heart and just in my own lived experience that TriMet is not just a company, it's not just an organization, it's a social service. And each and every one of you who are employed at TriMet, you are a social service worker in many ways, whether you're making 6 figures or $20 an hour. You are providing a social service to this region, to this community, to our state, and I want you all to remember that. Whether you are serving houseless folks who they may only have some change in their pocket to ride our system, to the people in suits who are going from downtown Portland to their homes in Lake Oswego. I don't know. You are providing a social service to this community. And so I just feel like whatever decisions that we make, I want to focus on equity. I want to focus on, we're gonna have a celebration of the Jan Campbell Center, which is great. Yay for us, pat on the back. But let's not forget about the folks who are transit dependent, who are needing ADA, who are needing the Lyft paratransit services. Let's not forget about those actual people that use our system on a day-to-day basis. Let's not forget about them. I'm not saying we are, but again, in a lot of this decision-making around efficiency and transparency, we can often forget the why of why we exist, and also just why you all, right, decide to be at TriMet. You could be anywhere else. You are all talented. You are all amazing individuals. You probably could have picked any profession that you wanted, quite honestly, but you decided to work in a public transit agency. So let's not forget that. Sam, I just want to thank you for your leadership. This has been rough, I will say, especially over the last several years with COVID and everything else. So I also thank you for being our leader, for delivering, this news from you directly, and we're going to just continue to support each other. So thank you.
I want to say I felt your passion, and I felt the love for our community and for people that came across. I want to let you know that I feel the same way. And it starts with me down into the organization. So I want you to hear me tell you that I'm committed to making sure that we look out for our riders, our customers. The motto that we have set here is to connect people for a better life. And that's what we're about. We're about doing that. And equity, disability is a top priority for me at this organization. So we will lead, and we will make sure that those items, those areas are covered and thoughtful as we're doing it with care and compassion and transparency. So thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. As we bear the news of the wound that we have had, our board has, and the agency has known about the wound that we have had. Today, Sam took the Band-Aid. Unfortunately, it was time to take the Band-Aid off of the wound that we have known since COVID that has been growing. I echo all of the words that the board has shared. And as a board, we have work to do as a team, and we will get it done. I saw many board members the last 2 days crying in fear of what their agencies are facing. And as Sam stated, the last 4, I think our conversation started 6 months ago about the wound that sits in our agency of hoping, praying for our state, our legislator, and even our federal government to assist. And so we have a balloon that the air is going to diminish, but we can do this. It's not a can, we are going to do it, and it is our job as the board to get it done. We do lead, as Aaron said, when you mentioned TriMet, standing with other agencies. They look to us, and we were asked constantly, I was, what's Sam doing? How are you going to manage your Band-Aids? We have a couple, but today we now look at those wounds, and it will be a slow heal. It will not be a sudden heal. I mean, there is no ointment or any herb that we can take and put on it. It's going to take care, compassion, and one of the pieces in yesterday's meeting was on board goals. And I've said often and many times, it's about our riders. And I'm going to push our board members to know what your district wants and is saying. We should not wait until they come before us. We should be out in our district talking and hearing about our riders. It is about the riders. It is about our communities. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, President Lewis. I'll just close with this, is that we are committed to continue to work with our lawmakers to increase state transit funding I'm still hopeful that an increase in the STIF program will be considered at the special session that the governor has just called in August. But I think as we leave as a board and staff, I want our community to know, and I want to speak directly to our community, that we do not, as a board and as executive leadership of this organization, we do not take lightly the role that we play in so many people's lives. And I think I want to make sure that you hear that. From those that are reliant on transit due to age or disability, to those that can't afford due to the cost of driving, those that choose to ride for convenience or environmental benefits. We understand and we take that very seriously. And as we move forward, again, I want to make sure that everyone know that we are going to do it with three things. And that's with care, compassion, and transparency to all of you. So thank you, board, and thank you, President Lewis.
Thank you, General Manager, for your report this morning. Clarity, thank you, C-Suite, for coming up and answering our questions. At this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Learn to use the gavel, use the gavel. Okay, at this time, we will look at our consent agenda. The items appearing on our consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. This morning, the consent agenda consists of 3 items. First, we have approving the minutes from our June 25th, 2025 meeting. Second is a resolution 250737, our annual statement of board member responsibilities and code of conduct, which is largely the same as last year's. There are 2 new provisions. Far as our committees, we now have members that can also sub if another member is out. So it requires board members to let the president know. It'll be more than likely my job to attend the meetings when you're unavailable, which does happen, in the absence of board committee meetings, as well as regular board meetings. And then the second requires that board members request for staff reports, documents, and other information must be made through the general manager and not directly to TriMet staff. The third consent agenda item is Resolution 250738, endorsing an evaluation and update of the TriMet bike plan. There is not yet an updated bike plan, but I asked staff to include the 2016, so that was added to our net because it wasn't in the packet, right? Or the update? Yes. Okay. Does any director wish to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda? Any little hands? Okay. Okay, not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second. Does anyone have any comments before we vote? No? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, let us turn now to our regular resolutions on our agenda. Resolution 3, the board now considers Resolution 250739, adopting the Coordinated Transportation Plan Update based on the recommendations of the Accessible Transportation Fund Advisory Committee. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
Thanks, President Lewis. Members of the board, TriMet is a state-designated qualified entity for the Tri-County area, and as such, we oversee the distribution of state and federal funds for public transportation services designated for seniors, people with disabilities, and those on a low income. Federal and state law requires TriMet to adopt a coordinated transportation plan every 5 years. The plan fosters coordination among service providers across the Tri-County region, outlining priorities and actions that improve service efficiency, cost effectiveness, and overall rider experience. The updated plan before you was developed by TriMet staff in consultation with Accessible Transportation Fund Advisory Committee. The board established the advisory committee in February of 2024. Its purpose is to assist us in developing the plan and allocating available funds for transportation services and programs for older adults and people with disabilities. The 2025 plan update intends to meet both state and federal requirements simultaneously. Senior Director of Planning Alan Lato and Director of Mobility Planning and Policy, Tom Mills, are here with priorities of the updated plan. And Tom, I'll just turn it over to you.
Good morning, Board President Lewis, TriMet board members. Thank you for having me today. Again, my name is Tom Mills. I am the Director of Mobility Planning and Policy here at TriMet. I'm here today to talk about the update to the Coordinated Transportation Plan. If we could go to the next slide. As Sam had mentioned, TriMet is the recipient for both state and federal funds that are designated for transit services for older adults and people with disabilities. And starting with the federal requirement, FTA, those funds come through a program called the Federal Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program. The shortened version is Section 5310 or 5310 funds. And FTA requires that projects funded by these funds are included in a locally developed coordinated transportation plan. And that plan is developed, and the process includes participation with older adults, people with disabilities, transportation and human services providers, and public transit riders. The plan must identify the transportation needs and priorities for funding and the implementation for those projects, and it must be updated once every 5 years. Just a side note, it used to be that we had to update it every 4 years, and it was because the Portland area, metro area, was out of compliance for air quality. But in 2017, the region became in compliance, and so our last update was in 2020, and we now were able to have that extra year to work on this. Next slide, please. Additionally, Oregon administrative rules require that TriMet, as the qualified entity for the Tri-County area, receiving STIF population-based formula funds, which are formula funds through the STIF program that are designated for transportation services for older adults and people with disabilities, that those projects that the qualified entity provide a coordinated plan to guide the investments for those program funds for older adults and people with disabilities. So both the federal and the state require that this plan be created and updated. Next slide. So it just so happens that we do have a committee that works on these issues. That is called the Accessible Transportation Funds Advisory Committee. This committee actually, primarily their role is to make recommendations to the HB 2017 Transit Advisory Committee to include how these funds should be spent on what projects, and then that recommendation gets put into the biennial STIF plan. HB 2017 Transit Advisory Committee recommends that plan to the TriMet board, and then you approve it. And that committee is composed of older adults, people with disabilities, transportation providers, human service providers, and transit customers. That committee has been meeting with staff since January of this year to update the plan, and on June 20th, they unanimously voted to approve the plan and forward it to the TriMet board. Next slide, please. So just some quick highlights of what's in the plan. We are required by law to have, for the plan to address certain topics, particularly, specifically the needs for service, priorities, strategies, and actions. But we also have, as well as kind of a state of existing transit services. And as you can see, they're all listed here in the chapters. We've also included a demographics chapter as well as a chapter on funding. The priorities in the plan are, largely let's maintain the services we have and continue to fund those. That is a priority over expanding new services, as well as when possible, let's increase capacity. If you were to read the plan, you would see there is a lot of talk about aspirational goals and, goals that we want to meet but recognize that we don't yet have the funding for. Also in the strategies and actions that really just kind of reinforces that we want to maintain and expand service to meet aspirational goals, enhance access and increase system efficiency, continue performance reporting, which largely occurs through the STIF program, improve customer experience, and promote coordination and innovative partnerships among service providers. Next slide. So this document will act as a guiding document for the ATFAC, again, the Accessible Transportation Funds Advisory Committee, when they are allocating or making their recommendations for allocations for STIF population-based formula funds and the state 5310 funds. And that's it. If any questions?
First, we need to call for a motion, and then we'll take the questions.
Oh, pardon me.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250739?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. At this time, questions, comments before we vote? Okay. Director Graham?
Thank you. I had one question about the process and then one question about engagement. With the process, I know a number of the different communities and governments involved also have accessibility committees, as we do in the CAT. And I wonder, are those accessibility committees consulted at all through the process of updates or development of this plan?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question, Director Graham. Not directly. So on our Accessible Transportation Funds Advisory Committee are members from the staff members to the area agencies on aging at the county level, and and they are, I believe, they staff those larger committees. So they kind of in that role are speaking on behalf of those committees that you refer to.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, I noted in reading the report that there was not a lot of public engagement at some of the opportunities for public engagement. And I was thinking also about showing the value of TriMet in the community and some of these conversations that we've been having. Are there ways that you have thought of to increase public engagement around this plan generally if people were not coming to the meetings?
Yeah, first off, the engagement was largely through the committee, which represents the public. But it has been a challenge to kind of get people to come to meetings post-COVID, more so than ever before. The meetings were largely online. We have people on the committee who live in Forest Grove. We have people on the committee who live in Gresham. So it's really hard to, and many of whom, may have a disability or are a senior. So it is hard. There was a time when we would try to meet in person. Now with the convenience of virtual meetings, the favor of the committee is to meet, there was a time we met personally. Now the preference is to meet over virtual meeting. So there are challenges with getting the public to come to the meeting. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Graham. Director Frisbee?
Thank you, Director Mills. My question is actually a little bit ancillary, but I have heard discussion that given our wildfire smoke challenges and the significant impact that has on air quality, in addition to sort of an increased heat-related set of air quality concerns, do you anticipate that we may have to go back to, that we may fall out of compliance and go back to updating every 4 years?
That's a great question. I have not heard any mention of that in the past, or recently. So it's something I think we'll have to keep an eye on. I believe it's Metro that is kind of charged with kind of tracking that and getting they were the ones who kind of received the letter giving them the A-OK that the region was in compliance. So we can check with our friends at Metro about that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Tom? Yes, Director Flowers.
Thank you so much, President Lewis. Thank you, Tom. Following up actually on Director Graham's question, I'm wondering, in these opportunities for public engagement, was there much use of digital media in order to promote the events?
I can say probably no. No, there wasn't.
Okay. If there's any interest in collaborating and creating opportunities for thought partnership moving forward on how we might be able to pull folks into the fold using our brilliant social media team or some other digital strategies, I'd be happy to be of use in any way I can.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other feedback, questions? Check our virtual directors up there. Okay. All right, at this time, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Moving to Resolution 4, we now consider Resolution 250740, authorizing a construction manager general contractor services contract with Ray Morstadt joint venture for the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
Thanks, President Lewis. Members of the board, the 82nd Avenue Transit Project will provide frequent express bus service along 10 miles of 82nd Avenue corridor. It will run between Clackamas Town Center and Northeast Portland, where there will be an FX station and bus layover space integrated into the Cully neighborhood. 82nd Avenue is currently served by TriMet's Line 72, Killingsworth 82nd. It's a bus line that holds a distinction as both the busiest and also the most delayed in our entire network. The project will improve travel times, service reliabilities, using proven features like transit signal priority, stop consolidation, 60-foot articulated buses, and more. The board approval resolution number 250316 at its March meeting exempting this solicitation from ordinary low bid requirements. This allowed TriMet to use a competitive RFP process to select a CMGC service contractor for the project. We received 3 proposals determined to be responsive to the RFP, and they were scored by an evaluation committee according to established criteria. Raymore and Sant joint venture was the highest scoring firm. The board's adoption of the resolution will authorize the award of CMGC services contract to Raymore Sant joint venture, including about $800,000 for pre-construction services. We will then return to the board for approval to award the additional amount for construction services once the parties agree to the total contract price. The funds for the pre-construction services are included in FY 2026 budget for Engineering and Construction Division, and funds for the contract will continue to be included in future proposed budgets. Your approval of the resolution is recommended.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250740?
So moved.
So moved.
Triley, would you like to be second?
I'll take second.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment on this resolution before we vote? No. Director Flowers?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, we talked earlier about the critical importance of transit as, the lifeblood of mobility for everyday folks in a metropolitan area. I think there's another piece of the conversation that often gets left out when we talk about why our system matters so deeply, we know for a fact that every dollar invested in transit results in about $5 in local economic activation. One of the things that figure actually fails to include is the type of wealth that gets generated through contracting and procurement practices. TriMet has historically done a fantastic job of pulling folks into the work, making sure that the people doing the work are extensions of the communities that the work is meant to serve. And I think this contract is a brilliant reflection of that same lifelong ethos for this agency. Couldn't be more excited to really wholeheartedly support this particular resolution. And I'm excited to see what the work produces in our community.
Thank you, Director Flowers. Okay, seeing no other comments, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we will now turn to Resolution 5. Resolution number 250741, authorizing a contract with HDR for design services for the Tualatin Valley Highway Transit and Safety Project. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
President Lewis, members of the board, the TV Highway Transit and Safety Project will lay the groundwork for what will be our third TriMet FX bus line. The project follows the Line 57 TV Highway Forest Grove route, which travels more than 16 miles between Beaverton and Forest Grove, and is the highest ridership bus line in Washington County. TriMet will be the lead agency for the TV Highway project, leading both the project design and construction. Using a qualification-based procurement process for the design services, we received 2 proposals and interviewed both firms. Following the interviews, TriMet Evaluation Committee agreed that HDR was the most qualified firm. Direct labor costs and overall contract value were negotiated after the contractor was selected per qualification-based selection process. The resolution authorizes an award of 6-year contract to HDR for an amount not to exceed $17.25 million. The negotiated amount is within the budget established for the project. Funds are committed, and the FY 2026 budget for engineering and construction funding will continue in the future proposed budgets, including contribution from project partners. And I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250741?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second. At this time, does anyone have comments, feedback? Yes, Director Frisbee.
I am just wondering, given the inaction by the state legislature, and I know we were counting on some capital project dollars to help finish this project, if the board could get an update on the plan or approach sometime after the August 29th special session.
General Manager?
Absolutely. We will definitely individually and also as a board in September give you a full update of that session. I do want to say that Director Frisbee and I've talked to several of you, as we move forward with this project, there was $50 million in lottery bonds that we did not receive from the state. So that's the concern right now, and it's a flag for all of us.
Yes. Director Frisbee, oh, okay. Did you have any additional?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing none others, I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yep. Any opposed? Seeing, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Resolution 6, Resolution number 250742, authorizing a contract with ISC Applied Systems for Rail Vehicle Mobile CCTV Replacement Project. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
President Lewis, members of the board, TriMet operates 6 light rail vehicle fleets ranging from our Type 1 all the way up to our Type 6 MAX vehicle. We also operate West Commuter Rail trains between Beaverton and Wilsonville. All MAX and West trains are equipped with mobile CCTV communication systems. This project will retrofit the CCTV systems installed in our Type 3 and Type 4 and Type 5 MAX light rail vehicles and the 8 West train cars. Those camera systems are reaching their end of useful life and no longer provides functionality that TriMet needs. So let me bring up our vehicle engineer and project manager, Todd Millett, and he's going to give us, and Sean Batty's going to be with him. They both will give a closer look at the system we're talking about and why we're not tackling all of them at one time. Todd?
Thank you, President Lewis and board members, for having me today. As Sam mentioned, I am Todd Millett, project manager for the Rail Vehicle Mobile CCTV Replacement Project. Next slide, please. So I'd like to just run through a high level of what this contract would supply for TriMet. The contractor on this is going to design, supply, and provide the installation of a replacement CCTV system for the Type 3 fleets and the West Commuter Rail vehicles on this resolution. To be determined, we have the Type 4s and 5s where we've received the pricing for that, but due to some budget constraints, we are going to wait until we can get the funding secured before we come back to the board for that authorization. As described there, our West technicians will install this system on those 8 rail vehicles themselves. Next slide, please. The existing system on the Type 3s and West vehicles is approximately 16 years old. You can see an example image here from the Type 3 interior passenger cameras. These are very outdated equipment. We also have components of this system that are becoming obsolete, such as the storage devices that the CCTV data is stored on. Also, with the storage devices means that we have to manually retrieve the data off of these hard drives, so a maintenance technician has to go catch the train back in a yard to be able to then send this information onto our Safety and Security Operations Center. Specifically for West, we have a new Federal Railroad Administration rule that has set new minimum requirements for the CCTV on board commuter rail services. Any existing in-service vehicles must be in compliance with this rule by October of 2027, and West requires a significant amount of work to meet those requirements. Next slide, please. Here's an image of from the Type 6 MAX. You can see very nice, crisp, clear images here. These new cameras are similar to what we'd be installing on the older fleets here in this contract. We would be also improving the coverage and obtaining better video quality. For the Type 3s specifically, we are adding a side camera feature, which would allow the operator to see image on a display from both ends of a train, which would support their operations at curved platforms, for example. And additionally, a pantograph monitoring camera, which we have on the Type 6s and provides an extra beneficial view for maintenance and OCS investigations throughout if there's any incidents there. This contract and the devices specified would increase the storage capacity greatly. Around 500 hours of footage would be stored, and it provides the connections from the vehicle CCTV system onto TriMet's network. This would allow us to do the remote data downloading, fleet monitoring to basically ensure that the cameras are online, the DVR or the recording devices are online, and be able to be proactive on the maintenance standpoint for that. This network also allows the availability of our TriMet ITS department to expand on with other initiatives that they might come up with in the future. Next slide. Here's a few images of the example cameras and equipment that was proposed for this system. We have some single view cameras, exterior cameras, and new panoramic or 360-degree view cameras for the interior. So in conclusion, the project provides a robust new system that improves reliability, reduces maintenance efforts, and streamlines the CCTV data retrieval. And specifically for West, this positions TriMet to be in compliance with the new FRA rule. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. President and board members, this resolution would authorize a contract to ISC in the amount of $8 million plus a change order fee of 10% over the life of the 2-year contract. So I recommend your approval.
Thank you. Thank you, General Manager. It had been moved in second. Do we have any comments before we vote?
No, it hasn't been moved in second.
Oh, I didn't? Oh, sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250742?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment at this time? Thank you. Thank you, Council. Director Graham.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this is for you or maybe for Andrew. But at the recent APTA conference, one of the things that we heard during a session on safety and security was that some agencies were having really good luck on some of their routes that required greater safety response with having a screen that showed back into the bus and showed the people themselves on a screen, because it was like people didn't really realize that they were on camera, and that it had significantly reduced the incidences on those routes. So they didn't do it across the whole fleet. But I wondered if that was something that had been discussed or could be added later.
We have every one of our buses right now over this last couple of years with that technology. It took us about 4 or 5 years, but it's hard to know how much that actually reduces the you're on candid camera kind of display. But I do think it's part of a number of initiatives which has helped us kind of achieve some of the safety goals that we've had. In terms of the train system, we don't have that capability. But what I like about this project is it is positioning us for future upgrades. On some of our oldest fleets, like the Type 3, there are a wide range of opportunities that we can pursue with kind of how they're positioning that. Things like monitors, things like announcements on board that are video. So there's lots of different technologies, and this is really just bringing an aging fleet forward so we can engage in some of those innovations in the future.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Graham. Director Frisbee?
Side note, Andrew, I have not seen any data around the security impacts, but I can say that those cameras on the buses are quite helpful for entertaining the under 10 riders. So there is an additional benefit.
Thank you, Director Frisbee. Director Flowers?
Thank you so much. Just a quick question. Have we done any economic analysis of the potential cost saved by upgrading these cameras? I know there's been a discussion about image quality and what that lends or what that can create for our security operation. But is there a cost savings that we are earning here by transitioning over to this data system? The reason I'm asking is because this is a pretty significant contract, right? We're talking about $8 million. It doesn't replace all of the cameras that we need replaced. And we are in the midst of talking about a $300 million gap that we're going to have to start hacking away at. So wondering if this feels like an immediate priority of the utmost importance, or if there is an aspect of this that could be pushed or deferred a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. So one of the key reasons for the project is the hardware obsolescence issue. So the storage devices themselves on board the trains, where all the data is stored, they're failing, and we're running out of spare parts for those. And the Type 1s don't have the same equipment, as the Type 3s or 4s and 5s, for example. So and that's one key aspect of this. Additionally, what we've recognized on how to sort of reduce costs on the future, this project provides that remote data download feature. And maintenance right now is charging approximately half an hour per every poll. And I think in 2024, I collected information saying there was like 1,700 data polls through the LRV fleets. So we would see a drastic drop in maintenance time for just going out and pulling that video. And with the preventive maintenance pieces of this project with the fleet monitoring, that allows operations and maintenance managers to essentially see the health of the fleet. That'll reduce the onboard PMs or preventive maintenance intervals because we'll be able to see live how that goes. So this equipment, the new technology, will bring us some time savings. We haven't fully evaluated that, so to speak, but we do see that as an opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So in other words, it would be fair to say that this is an investment that will save TriMet money in the long run.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just add to that too, it's a great summary by Todd and appreciate his work on this. There are safety elements to this too with the grainy image. And if Director Kellogg were here, he would talk to you probably about, and I know Board President Lewis served on the crash committee where we heard a lot of feedback about the availability of good footage, post an event to be able to do that work as well. This gives us that capability with a very aging fleet, and we get that pressure. And I think Todd mentioned earlier, this also gets us over an FRA hurdle with WES, which is necessary for us. We need to do that to operate WES. And then lastly, I would just say that when you invest in these kinds of technologies into the future, there are innovations that are potential out there and potential cost revenue increased innovations that could come as well in terms of advertisements on monitors with a good ITS system. And so, again, it positions us well for the future in a potential revenue increase, which we're looking into. So.
General Manager?
Just want to tag on, and part of this, one of the reasons why we decided not to retrofit the entire fleet is because of the $300 million cost. We're going to push out the 5s, the 6s, and possibly some of the 3s as well.
Yeah. Excellent question. Okay, Director. Oh, okay. And checking virtually, we're good. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the feedback and comments. At this time, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Todd. We'll move to Resolution 7, Resolution number 250743, authorizing 3 contracts for temporary staffing services to support TriMet's Information Technology Division. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
So President Lewis, members of the board, the TriMet's IT division uses contracted services for temporary projects and other business needs, including the ability to give the team flexibility. With access to temporary staff, the division can more easily adjust technical resources and specialized expertise and speed up project delivery. TriMet may also rely on contract staff in instances where project funding includes an allowance for labor, but does not necessarily create a TriMet position to carry out the work. And then finally, the IT division relies on contract staffing as a way to increase staffing to meet operational needs during intensive periods, such as heavy recruitment. TriMet currently has contracts with 3 vendors for these services, Kelly, Lexicon, and Triad. The contracts were procured in 2020. The contracts were modified considerably in the years since, and TriMet is currently approaching the value ceiling on all 3 With the contract's expiration less than a year away, we decided to procure new contracts rather than seek additional modifications. A competitive RFP process resulted in 52 responsive proposals. After initial evaluations, 49 proposals were removed from further competition. The proposals of the remaining firms were Lexicon, Triad, and Vanderhoeven. And I would want to make sure I pronounced that correctly. Scored very high and represented the best values to TriMet. All three firms have existing working relationships with TriMet and a division across the agency. Rates from the three proposals were found to be fair, reasonable, and within range of TriMet's independent cost estimate of $5 million per contract for a 5-year contract term. The total amount paid on each contract will be based on TriMet's actual requirements and the amount of services provided by each vendor. Funds for these contracts will be drawn from board-approved budgets for each fiscal year and from a variety of budget lines, including general and project funds. Approval of the resolution will not incur any additional financial impact, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250743?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment, have questions for the General Manager? Yes, Director Graham.
I noted in reading the memo that basically the overall contracting capacity is going, if I was reading it correctly, from 8.5 million to 15 million. Because the ceiling for the three previously was 8.5 collectively, and now it's going to 15, which feels like a big jump. And I was wondering if you could comment on that increase.
So yes, we're going to do $5 million per contract, and I would like to bring Sandy up. She's our IT Operations and Infrastructure Director to give you a little bit of insight about what we're increasing and why.
Good morning, directors. Thank you for the question. When we built the estimate for 5 years, we used the most current run rate from the last 4 business quarters, where the average was commensurate with the model that we created. So basically, year 1 is flat as the current run rate from the last 4 quarters, and then we built in a mild inflation adjustment for the outer years. So if there were no change, we would consume that same amount of resources.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Way.
Thank you. I appreciate this coming before us. IT work is very important, as I'm sure you know. I am just wondering, I know that a few years ago we had an opportunity to also look at how we can build the expertise capacity in-house by just maybe, hiring more positions within TriMet for IT rather than going outside for contracting services. So can you explain a little bit of why we reached that decision again and not creating positions within the agency?
Yes, thank you for the question, Director Frisbee.
Way.
Director Way, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
My apologies. In any case, yes, we use the contracting staff on an ongoing basis so that we have that ability to rapidly expand and contract with lesser impact, and that will benefit our employees as we go forward and look at the challenges we've talked about today. We have continued to use contract resources for that reason.
Okay, thank you. And I did note that it appears that all 3 are based in Portland.
Yes.
Is that
One
right?
of our requirements that we vetted for in all of the responses was having a local Portland presence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Okay. Checking virtually, hearing none. It's been moved and second. Oh, no. Is there a motion? Did I call for a motion? Long day. Moved in second. Does anyone, we've asked for comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. And thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Resolution 8. We now consider Resolution 250744, authorizing a contract with Ready Credit Corporation for FastPass Retail Network Services. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution for us?
So President Lewis and members of the board, back in 2014, TriMet executed a contract with Ready Credit Corporation to implement and operate our Hop FastPass retail network services. These services are used to sell and add value to adult, honored citizen, and youth hop cards with about 350 retailers across the metro area. Ready Credit Services provide direct integration among the 4 major payment networks, Ready Credit's own back office system and the Hop back office system. TriMet conducted a comparative process for implementation and provisions of the services before awarding the contract to Ready Credit 10 years ago. The current contract with Ready Credit will expire on August 31st, 2025. Before the current contract was to expire, we conducted a market research to determine what kind of competition exists in the marketplace for these services. That market research identified only one competitor, potential competitor, and no other business that provides direct retail integration with 4 major payment networks. The potential competitor also does not accept cash payments, which would significantly reduce the ability of many riders to purchase fare cards. Given the lack of competition in the market and the substantial costs associated with converting to a new system, TriMet staff recommended a sole source contract with Ready Credit Corporation in an amount not to exceed $600,000 to provide another 2 years of service. In accordance with the revised TCRB rules, sole source contracts can only be issued for a 2-year period. Despite the $600,000 contract amount, payments TriMet makes to RCC will be determined by the number of Hop cards sold, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250744?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment? Questions for this resolution? Director Frisbee?
I have a question. I've received a few communications from folks who live outside the TriMet Transit District who are interested in purchasing Hop cards on site, not through our online digital system. I recognize that there's a challenge in terms of service and sort of how do you draw the line outside of our district, particularly given that we're trying to encourage digital Hop card use as much as possible. Do we have a policy or a general approach that has helped shape how we provide Hop card purchasing services outside of the district?
So is Greg LaRoe, is he here? Come on up. And JC, you may want to have a little bit of conversation as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, we do have retail. I'm sorry, thank you.
Have it on.
We do have a few retail locations that are outside the district, but a very few. They're on the outskirts, so to speak. So we don't have. Yeah, we only have a handful, but it's kind of like the chicken and the egg here. We need stores. They're more valuable when they're within the district where our riders are at, and if they're outside that area, it's going to be kind of complicated, kind of hard to sign up stores in those locations. Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. It has been moved in second. I'll call for a vote. Thank you, Jason and JC. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. At this time, that concludes our resolutions for the day, and I do have a few closing comments and a few housekeeping for us before we step away for the day. We all heard and this is Laverne, and why I was off, because my mind was thinking about how we listen and what we heard from the general manager's report today. And I thought back to what I learned at APTA conference of some of those agencies that are in crisis mode in after hearing. And so the next step, the messaging and the narrative of what we will say to our community is very important. And one or two agencies said it was catastrophic because they did not have a good plan. And so on behalf of the board, I'm going to take the liberty to ask the general manager, and I think Director Frisbee had commented, or it was JC, that after the special session that you contact the board with a call, and that we're committed to hearing and being available to the next steps. Our next meeting is not until September, but there's a lot that's going to happen, and that you reach out to us, not once, not twice, but between now and September directly, and that we be available and ready and listen and have our feedback for our general manager. My second thought and the board can comment on this, is that I think it's important that I don't want to hear or see on Facebook what the messaging is, where we go from here. As a board member, I want to know and be a part of what, how, and when before the messaging goes out. And I don't know if I'm speaking on behalf of our board, but we would like to know for our communities, and that we have a narrative, not 6 or 7 or 50. And that was the catastrophic issue that other agencies shared after they delivered the same message that we're delivering, that we stand together and be a part, but at least the board know, not see and hear from our members of our community what we're doing. And I would like to ask that you could do that. Any comments, feedback from JT?
Well, thank you so much, President Lewis, and I couldn't agree more. On a personal level, I'd just like to second everything that President Lewis just said, and also add that we're here to be at TriMet's disposal throughout the special session as well, right? If you folks need backup down there in Salem, if you need extra hands on deck, if you need conversations to happen, if we could ever be useful in lending our voices or the resources and relationships that we all bring to bear throughout our different pockets of activity and areas of expertise, we would be honored to be a part of that process in a direct way, so long as it's useful to the agency and to the advancement of the needs and the interests of the people who rely on our system.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Housekeeping notes, just a reminder of the deliverables that each of the deliverables that was delivered to us, that we take this report and results in consideration as the board. We will consider for the GM's formal evaluation, which will be presented at our September board meeting. Between now and then, the other team will work on future deliverables, and these too will be presented in September. On that note, I conclude that our public business meeting for today is done. Remember that we have a briefing from our John Garner, Executive Director of Public Access and Innovation regarding language access to the transit system and an update on our Title VI programming. We'll take a break and reconvene in 10 minutes. Thank you. We can get started. We don't need folks to sit and listen, just us. And I think his is like 10 minutes or so.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it okay if I cut out by 12 minutes?
Okay, we will continue with our special briefing. I'll turn attention over to our general manager.
Thanks, President Lewis. I would like to bring our Executive Director of Public Affairs, J.C. Vanetta, up to give the board an update on how we're going to communicate with the public and what our next steps in the next week to 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So as you can imagine, we have been, we want to use all of our available resources in communicating out this difficult news today. And we have been, while you have been talking, have been working to get it into the hands of so many of our partner agencies, our riders, as well as the media. And Sam will, and our employees as well. There's been an email that has gone out to all of our employees, an express line. Sam will also be doing a special town hall dedicated to our budget this afternoon for all of our employees to continue to deliver the news, as well as take a lot of questions. I'm guessing there are going to be. We also will be continuing to talk to our riders and giving them opportunities and keeping them updated through all of our rider channels, whether that might be Facebook or online through TriMet.org. And we will continue to post there and inform them through all of our email and SMS channels, as well as our social media. And I would also just note that Sam also has a long call list. He's going to be making some phone calls this afternoon to lawmakers, to our partner agencies, to deliver this news as well, as we want to partner with them as we move forward. And we will be down in Salem working with the governor's office. We're very, I'm optimistic. I will continue to be optimistic that we are included, but there's a lot of conversations that need to have happen for them to understand the importance of our transit funding. So again, as we roll out more and more information, we'll be doing it in advance to you all so that you are informed with talking points and how we're going to address what the cuts and the service reductions that we do take in the weeks and months ahead. So we'll be rolling that out to you, and then as well as to all of our riders, first off, so they understand, and then as we look at the cuts that are coming in March, really working with them and the community, developing a robust engagement plan so that they can have a say as we work to figure out what is best for our community, for our riders, and frankly, for our finances as well, so.
Thank you, JC. That was the piece that I was more concerned about, is the board, because we do receive and will receive quite a few letters and calls. Director Frisbee had commented she already received 6. Yeah. And so that we at least get a copy of the press release and then get information so that we are ready with our words of that we are giving the same message.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Director Frisbee? Mm-hmm.
I am less concerned with how we are communicating and more interested in what we are communicating, because I think that's a really important part of this conversation. These cuts were avoidable, right? They are, as Director Graham said earlier, this is sort of the tail end of COVID. But if we had had stronger action from the legislature, and if we lived in a region where there was more popular buy-in and understanding of the importance of transit, we would be having a different set of conversations. And so I am really hopeful that we can use this moment in time to communicate, not like these are the cuts because we have no money and we're just doing this because we have to, which is a very sort of resigned, hopeless set of things to communicate. And I will be frank, it is how TriMet has often communicated about this in the past. But I would rather see us communicating, this is an action we are taking now as a preventative step. And here is why we are doing this, but here is how you can be a part of preventing future cuts. And to the extent that we can, letting people know that contacting their legislators matters, but also using this as a moment to communicate why transit, that we understand how this impacts them individually, and helping them have the tools to talk about how this impacts them individually. So we know that this changes people's daily commutes. You know, we hope you, to the extent that this is important to you, contact your board member, but more importantly, contact your city councilor. contact your legislator. Make sure that, talk to your friends and family about how these transit cuts will impact your life. Because I think we have tried, frankly, in the past because we feel terrible about these cuts, right? I think all of us are up here feeling terrible. We have tried to sort of make them and move on. And I actually think we really need to help people understand how they can be a part of preventing future cuts. So to me, the question is less how are we communicating? I assume that we're doing all the sort of basic standard things you need to communicate, and more about what.
Thank you, Director Frisbee. Well said, because that was similar, my earlier, is the what, the how, and the when is important, and that was the piece that was indicated from the other agencies. It wasn't the delivery. And then they also indicated different messages. There is the message to our community, and then there's that message from Sam and the agency to Salem. Different messages, but this is that care and compassionate piece. Being transparent with care and compassion that our general manager is stressing, and how we do that. I mean, this is what we heard earlier was a punch to the gut, but this is going to be the punch to our riders. And how will we do that with all the parts that will help them? But thank you, Director Frisbee, for that.
You know, we've been talking about having more sort of listening sessions in community that board members are helping to participate in and lead in our areas. And I would appreciate working with you and you, Sam, too, to think about how we do that, especially in light of this news, because the tenor will be very different.
Absolutely. We stand ready to staff and do all of the work, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's the key. Not so much management and staff, but hearing our community and their voices first.
Right.
And then we are the second part of listening. I mean, I know we take the forefront, but
Oh, no, well, we will have open houses and various outreach activities, so that's already a foregone conclusion. So however you want to be involved in that is absolutely, we look to you for your involvement, and we would love for you to be there. But we will move forward and actually have all of these outreach activities. So we will absolutely make you aware of the opportunities for you to be involved.
Great.
So.
And the earlier, the
Yes.
better,
The better.
and more likely than we can be there. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President Lewis and Board. JC, thank you. This morning, we're going to hear about our language access and Title VI programs. TriMet recently conducted an extensive survey on language access, and as we look to update the plan with the goal of ensuring meaningful access to TriMet programs and services for people with limited English proficiency, this morning I have Executive Director of Public Access and Innovation, John Gardner, and his team, which he will introduce, to look at some of the data that informed the updated plans. So John, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sam, and good morning, good afternoon, President Lewis and members of the board, and thank you again for letting us update you on our efforts to update our Title VI and language access programs as part of our 3-year FTA requirement to do so. This morning, I'm joined by Jake War, TriMet's Title VI Program Manager, and Christina Bonilla, TriMet's Language Access Program Manager, and each will walk you through their subsequent program areas. This is ahead of our resolution in September, where we will be asking you to adopt the program update ahead of the submission to the FTA in October. What you'll hear today is sort of the overview of the process and some of the changes that we're making in our plan ahead of us publishing the actual plan documents, which you'll see here is the Title VI program update, and here is the Language Access Program update, which are much larger documents that we'll be publishing online for public feedback for 7 weeks. During that 7 weeks, my team and I would love to meet with either any of you to answer any specific questions you have across the demographic changes you might see or the specific strategies. But today we just wanted to give you sort of context for the changes that we're proposing and just sort of how we came to the program updates that you'll see before you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jake Ward to walk you through our Title VI program update.
Thanks, John. And need to push the button. Good afternoon, directors. So I'm Jake War, and I'll give you, as John said, an update on our update to the Title VI program, sort of the components of it, a refresher for you as you've seen various pieces of Title VI for the past over your tenure. So can we go to the next slide, please? So as a reminder, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 stated that no person in the United States, and person is highlighted there because it's regardless of any sort of status, shall, on the grounds of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, to be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And as TriMet, as a recipient of federal financial assistance, we comply with Title VI and all requirements that the DOT and FTA put in front of us. So next slide, please. As a big overview of the components of the Title VI program, we have a lot of different ways that we comply, that we notify the public of their rights under Title VI, our procedures for investigating discrimination complaints, our language access plan, which Christina will talk about, monitoring our subrecipients, doing various analyses. So I'll go over each of these in the next slides. Next slide, please. So first, you've seen this on all of our vehicles, our Title VI notice to the public, all of our 668 buses and 150-something train cars. We have this in 6 languages that represent the most spoken, besides English, the most spoken languages by those who have limited English proficiency, so that anyone can be aware of their rights and know what to do, who to call, what email to send if they feel they've experienced discrimination on board. Next slide, please. So when we do receive those complaints, we have an established process where we prioritize them depending on their severity. And then we go forward with an investigation from there, speaking with if it's, say, a complaint with an operator, speaking with the operator, speaking with their supervisor, and if anything is appealed, then that goes directly to the general manager. Customers, riders, they can also file discrimination complaints directly to the FTA or to BOLI if they choose to do so. But most come through our SIP system. Yes, Dr. Lewis? You know, that is a solid question. I think BOLI would be more commonly with employees. That makes a lot more sense. I think we probably just have the
and they can also go directly to ODOT. Yeah.
That's true. Should probably rephrase that to say customers and employees as the option. Thank you for pointing that out. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we assess the severity of complaints, and we have this framework here where we have this green zone where we want to be. We're providing the best customer service possible and free of discrimination. But we identify priority complaints where a customer alleges a pass up on the basis of their status, some policy disputes, all the way to the more extreme and immediate response allegations where we hear about slurs, fights, those sorts of conflicts that can occur on board or in the system generally. Next slide. Part of the Title VI program is giving an overview of our public participation efforts over the past 3 years. There's been a lot. Our community outreach and engagement teams are always busy, always out there in the community at events, holding special open houses. We've been talking a lot about what's upcoming around the announcements today. But reaching thousands of community members and riders, conducting surveys to inform our rider experience, as well as the analysis that we do when planning service. We have our committee on accessible transportation, which you're well aware of. Those sorts of things. Hundreds of events are constantly ongoing. So the program gives a brief overview of those activities. Next slide. The language access plan that Christina will dive into is a requirement under Title VI. Through this, just listed here are safe harbor languages, which FTA defines as if the population of limited English proficient people who speak these languages is 1,000 or more, or 5% of the population. They fall under this safe harbor, and that has implications for what we translate just as an automatic procedure, and the information that we provide online, for example, in these languages to ensure language access. But again, Christina will go into more depth with that.
Can I just ask a quick question about the languages list? If that could, yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to clarify. So this is the most commonly languages spoken in the TriMet Transit District?
Yes.
Okay.
By those who identify as having limited English proficiency, yeah.
Thank you. I think this is just such a good data point, especially to Director Frisbee's point about like all the the anticipated changes that are going to be coming, and how many of us are representatives of our communities, and if we're going to continue strengthening our relationships with our cities, our counties, our towns, mayors around the investment and the importance of public transit, I think this is an excellent point to also highlight that, this is who we're also serving in their backyards. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Can you explain why, go back to the list again, why American Sign Language is not part of the safe harbor languages?
Yeah, generally, we kind of look at it both ways, as a language as well as an ADA piece. But that, under the guidance for language, limited English proficiency from the federal government, it doesn't address ASL. But I believe in our LAP, we do have a piece addressing, correct me if I'm wrong.
We don't, this is Christina Bonilla, Language Access Program Manager. We don't have a piece specifically addressing ASL. However, the reason that ASL is not noted in the Safe Harbor language list is that the threshold that has been set by the FTA, the federal government actually specifically, is that it's 5% of the total population of the service area, or 1,000 people, whichever is less. So the ASL does not meet that threshold.
And we know that how?
We look at census data, in particular American Community Survey data. We look at Department of Justice data, and also school district data to ensure where those languages may fall within threshold. However, depending on geographical locations of projects or your districts, the languages may change in order of the threshold, and therefore translation interpretation services may be provided for vital information.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Next slide. So I think all of you responded to a brief survey we sent out asking for demographic information, specifically race or ethnicity. It's a requirement to report that to the FTA. The thinking behind that, the purpose behind that is to say our leadership committees representing the communities that they serve with their transit service. So that's reported in there. Next slide, subrecipient monitoring. We have several entities that we pass through federal funds to who provide service in the community. So we ensure that they are complying with Title VI as well. They have specific requirements. And so we check in regularly with them, and they have reporting requirements to us. And again, we provide that as part of this program. Next slide. We monitor our service standards and performance on the system. There's a whole slew of things we analyze, including average vehicle age and how those are distributed. Here I've got a chart of our amenities at stops and comparing those that are distributed on what we call minority lines versus non-minority lines. This is language from the FTA. And we look at seating, lighting, all of that listed there to say, how are they distributed? Is there an equitable distribution of these amenities on the system based on the lines that at the stops that they serve? You can see in this chart as well that we found as good or better distribution of these amenities in all cases on minority lines, except for lighting. There was a slight 4% difference. Where non-minority lines, about 60% of those stops have lighting versus 56% on minority lines. We do have an established threshold of 5% difference as sort of our red flag area, so this is below that. Obviously, we want to strive for as good or better, but we have that established threshold. Next slide, please. Another requirement is analyzing facilities, how we cite them for certain types of facilities. We didn't have any in the last 3 years. On the previous Title VI program submission, that covered the Better Red and FX2, as well as the Columbia, the citing of the Columbia garage. Next slide. We did have major service changes and a fare change, as you know, over the last 3 years. So our policy here is where we identify a threshold for what constitutes a major service change. And we have those thresholds there. It's new or limited lines, 15% or more changes to length, span, or frequency, or when a line is split or combined. So we look at our annual service plans as well as any changes that happen in between. And if they meet this threshold, then we analyze to see if there are any disparate impacts or disproportionate burdens based on thresholds, again, that we establish in this program. And one thing I'll note is, with these thresholds, I think I want to point out and appreciate what Director Flowers said about, we have our stats. People are more than stats. And so the community engagement piece is crucial to really understand impacts and to develop our responses to that. So I just want to confirm that even though we have this analysis, that's an absolutely critical piece of this. Next slide. So some changes and updates to this program since the 2022 submission. We have some updated stats and figures, for example, on the LEP populations. On those thresholds around disparate impact and disproportionate burden, we're proposing making some adjustments to those given our experience over the last several years conducting these analyses and to really capture meaningful differences where we might identify potential disparities. Updated our demographic maps. There's a lot in there, a lot of them in the program, and then some minor language and formatting changes. So as a reminder, this is, as John said, going to be online this week and then open for public review and comment, and then it will be brought to you for, I believe it's a resolution to approve in September. So one just last thing I'll note, I want to just acknowledge the context that we're talking about and how crucial Title VI is going to be and language access is going to be given what we've been talking about today. So we take that very seriously and appreciate your support in conducting this important work.
just want to tell the team, thank you. Really appreciate this update. And I know that there's probably questions that will come towards you.
And next, you'll hear about the update for the language access plan from Christina Bonilla.
I had to check my watch. Wasn't sure if it was morning or afternoon, but good afternoon, President Lewis and members of the board. It's great to see you again. Again, I'm Christina Bonilla, the Language Access Program Manager. I'm here to provide a brief overview of how the process to updating the Language Access Plan and some of the work that is going to happen as we look ahead into the coming years. Next slide, please. So TriMet's Language Access Plan aims to ensure that our writers with limited English proficiency have meaningful access to our programs and services. I think it's important to note, how the U.S. Census defines individuals with limited English proficiency as those who speak, read, and write English less than very well. For our purposes, as we look at what does less than very well mean, according to National Assessment of Adult Literacy, individuals who are limited English proficient often perform below a basic literacy in English, functioning at approximately a third grade reading level or lower. That means that they may not be able to fully understand information, signage, fare instructions, or other service changes due to, unless they're translated or provided with interpretation support. According to the National Literacy Institute in the United States, 54% of Americans read below the equivalency of a sixth grade reading level. Next slide. So our commitment to meaningful access means that our communication is accurate, it's timely, and it's effective and provided at no cost to the individual. With this plan, we aim to ensure that writers that speak languages other than English receive information that it's not delayed, it's not restricted, or inferior to that is provided to English proficient writers. Next slide. We've chatted a little bit about this with Jake here about our safe harbor languages. And under federal guidance, we must translate vital documents and information for, again, at no cost to individuals for language groups that fall within 5% or 1,000 individuals in our ridership, in our rider area, whichever is less. And again, that does change also depending on geographical locations of projects and such. These thresholds also provide a trigger that allow us to help direct and focus services and resources where they're really needed. Next slide. So on the slide, you see again just a reiteration of our populations with limited English proficiency within the TriMet service area. There are 10 this update that meet that threshold. You'll see on the bottom other, those are languages that may fall within the safe harbor threshold, depending again on geographical locations, but are also considered emerging languages in our service area that we do provide translation for if needed. In our service area, there's about 112,630 individuals, or 7.2% of the population, that communicate, again, in languages other than English. This information, this data really shows that language access isn't a special accommodation, but it's a core practice of how we do business. Next slide. So this work is essential for many reasons. We want to lead with 5 as we look to implementing the language access plan. And we want to start, again, where we're going to prioritize our work, but really leading as we continue to grow our work. So the first is compliance and safety. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act require us to provide services for language access for individuals who are limiting their English proficiency as a part of an agency that receives federal funds. But also, language access can save lives in moments of crisis and emergencies. It is important that people understand directives, information, and so forth in their language, or is at least available in writing. A strong language access plan also ensures that we stay compliant, again, and protect our federal funds, but also, it demonstrates our commitment to ensuring that our writers feel welcome and can access our services. There's also equity and trust, right? About 75% of the individuals that spoke languages other than English who responded to our community survey reported that they were transit dependent. And so without language access, they really can miss out on information, for essential services and such. So it's important that clear, culturally respectful communication, right, can help us help promote trust within our agency, but also independence to safely navigate our system to get to where they need to go. And then lastly, business and community benefit. When riders understand how to use the system, they're more likely to ride regularly. And when our efforts are visible, it fosters stronger relationships with our community partners. Next slide. So in an effort to update the language access plan, we took a community-centered, driven approach. We started out by reviewing and assessing the 2019 language access plan and conducted a 4-factor analysis using updated census data, school district data, Department of Justice data, and then also healthcare data. We gathered input from TriMet staff and community partners. We also researched best practices and benchmarked other transit agencies across the country. And we conducted 2 major surveys. One was our community survey that was translated in 16 languages, and we received 3,347 responses. And then also our staff survey. Our survey engagement was one of the most successful language access engagements we've done with communities that speak other languages in our history. And so we're really proud of that work, but also immensely grateful to our community partners who worked with us and played a key role in making sure that this information got to the target population that we were trying to reach. These steps that we took help us ground our plan moving forward in both lived experience, but also operational realities as we move forward. Next slide. This is just a reference slide for you all about the responses by language, as you see listed. In speaking about ASL, one of the reasons that we provided the survey in English was, one, we didn't want to turn anybody away, but also recognizing that we would need a reference for interpreters that were helping support this work to look at the English version of our survey to compare it to the language that they were supporting the work in, and then also to understand the questions that were being asked. We also recognize that many of our writers or community members that spoke languages other than English also had low literacy rates in their native language and often depended on their children or others to help translate and interpret the information. So it was really important for us to have that accessibility point in English. As you notice, the majority of our responses were in Spanish. The survey was in simplified Chinese, but for spoken, we did combine Cantonese and Mandarin numbers together. Next slide. So most of the respondents, again, that spoke languages other than English really talked about the effects of language access and their ability to read signs, again, navigate schedules, and report problems. As you know, just a little under 2,000 individuals spoke languages other than English, but also reported that less than very well proficiency in English. Furthermore, 74% of the respondents in this category reported they were transit dependent, which compared to 58% of English-speaking writers. Next slide. We also heard from staff, and over half of the staff reported that they didn't know how to access interpretation or translated materials, and our writers that spoke languages other than English also reported the same experience. More than 50% of the staff reported that they were unaware of language services that they existed, and then both staff and writers reported that language access gaps continue to create barriers to accessing our services. The most common writer questions that were about fares, how to navigate the system, and the staff also said that some of those frequent issues about being able to provide that information without tools or translated material, they were often left to improvise ways to communicate and get that information out. Safety and reporting are additional concerns. 70% of our respondents that spoke other languages didn't know how to report emergencies or civil rights violations. And more than half of the staff reported that they rarely provide the guidance due to lack of training and awareness. Both staff and writers asked for better tools, translated signs, mobile alerts, interpreter access, and clear fare materials. So we know we have work ahead of us. Next slide. So as we look forward, launching our 3-year implementation plan, that this will include quarterly progress reports, expanded staff training, cross-department alignment, and this plan will be guided by 5 core goals. The first is prioritizing linguistically diverse community, then developing tools and standards to ensure consistent support, train frontline and customer-facing staff, sustain and expand our partnerships, resources, and technology, and continuously research and apply best practices as we move forward. Next slide. This is a very busy slide. Since the last language access plan update, we've made some great strides and done some amazing work in this at TriMet. More specifically, we've translated key writer materials into safe harbor languages and emerging languages, and so that's where we go beyond that 10 language threshold as an agency. We've expanded staff capacity with a community engagement team led by Amparo Agosto and a dedicated language access program manager. We've also translated over 200 static web pages in 5 languages. We grew our language vendor pool to include more locally, culturally competent linguists. And then we also began integrating AI translation tools with an emphasis on improving machine translation accuracy. Next slide. As we move into year 1 of our implementation, we are excited to highlight a few efforts that set TriMet apart. First, TriMet's convening a regional coordination through a language access collaborative, a network of more than 40 public agencies. Earlier this summer, we co-hosted a meet and greet in partnership with the City of Beaverton, the City of Portland, the Oregon Health Authority in Washington County. We had over 50 language access practitioners attend this event. The collaborative provides a space to share resources, exchange ideas, and align on how we can better communicate with our linguistically diverse communities. So it's not only strengthening TriMet's own work, but it's shaping a broader regional standard for language access. As I don't remember who said, we are a social service, right? And so it makes sense for us to reach out to other providers to ensure continuity, information, language, and other work. So we are also piloting a Spanish language ridership training, co-designed with a community partner. On the digital front, the Language Access Program worked closely with Digital Communications, Dave Whipple, and IT, Anthony Cass, to improve the accuracy of AI-powered machine translation. Together, we created language-specific style guides in 5 languages, a glossary of terms, and a community feedback loop, right, where we shared our work to the community to ensure the accuracy and the cultural relevance of the translations that were happening. We also, through this work, it's helping us translate or increase the translation quality of our software system to prepare for a more scalable, cost-efficient machine translation availability for some of our work. Looking ahead, we're planning a system integration that will allow multilingual alerts and real-time customer service chat. We plan to lead with Spanish and then adding Vietnamese, simplified Chinese, Russian, and Korean. Our efforts were recently recognized in the software world with the 2025 Accessibility Award from SmartLink at the Global Ready Conference. They were just acknowledging and appreciating the work that TriMet is doing in advancing language access and access to services to our multilingual communities. So again, TriMet's not just building a better system, we're building a more welcoming system, and we are proud to lead this work, and we're grateful for your support. Next slide. So I welcome any questions or comments folks may have.
Thank you. I just give so much thanks and appreciations for this team. I'm sorry I have to leave a little bit early, but again, I just want to say thank you so much for this work, and I can really tell that each of you have put a lot of your heart and soul into, not just doing the, what's required. Obviously, that's important, but just going above and beyond and thinking about innovation and thinking about, how do we really make sure folks feel welcome and included, especially in this very challenging time, right? Just to name everything that is happening for towards different communities. So again, I just want to say thank you. I am just curious now that we obviously there's a lot more that will be rolling out around budget and service and everything. You mentioned that this plan will be up for there's a community feedback happening for 7 weeks, and then a board decision in September. Given the news today, how is your team also providing the equity analysis and the everything else to some of the decisions that are going to be making forward? And is there an opportunity to adjust timeline? So for example, if it's like longer than 7 weeks of community engagement, because I just imagine our TriMet inboxes are going to be getting filled, the general inbox getting filled with just lots of community input. How will you all maybe pivot or be flexible to meet those needs? And that might be a question for General Manager to Sue as well.
Right. So, excuse me, what I would say is we actually began updating these plans last fall. So and we didn't go into, but you'll see it in the larger documents, the amount of community meetings and the surveys we did both for the Title VI program and the specific language access program. And when we spoke to you in, I think, February, and we gave you an update on both Title VI, the language access, and the DBE program, we were also kind of telling you what we were doing. We have great relationship with service planning, so Tom Mills and his team, and Jake's as an expert in this as well, we'll be doing equity analysis of any proposed service changes, and those analysis will include public comment and public feedback. And that public feedback will allow for participation of LEP participants as well. We will work within the constraints of the budget like every other division, but we are required to have a certain set of practices and procedures. JC, Vanetta, and Public Affairs have gone well beyond our public participation plan. It's best in class, and I know that will be leveraged to sort of get the word out and also get feedback on what changes are coming. But again, we feel really prepared to do whatever the agency needs while meeting the requirements, but also doing so in a best in class fashion.
Yeah, I just want to say that after the conversation this morning, there's several ways that the public will be reaching out and contacting my office. So I have gathered a team that's going to be monitoring all of that information that's coming in so that we could quickly respond to them and have the issues addressed from that. Also, our public affairs team and communications team, they're going to be monitoring anything that comes from the outside, just as well as our customer service teams. And they'll funnel all that information to communications so that we can get a response to the public.
Thank you so much for the presentation and all your great work. One of the things that really struck me in your presentation was how few people knew that they could reach out for safety resources. And I wondered, and you probably are already doing this, but if you have been collaborating with, on Bridging the Gap, that software that I think it's a smartphone app, and that's the CAT has been talking about, and also IRA, and there's some other tools like that I know we've been experimenting with in different ways, and I just wondered if those could also help in some way to let people, or help people with different languages access those resources.
Thank you for the question, Director Graham. So as a part of our software system that we purchased and working on increasing the translation accuracy, there's opportunity for different style of plugins and integrations. We are looking currently at our customer service chat and then safety. But in the near future, I know that conversations will happen around what does that look like for other applications that other folks are utilizing to receive information.
The only thing I would add is that if you unpack the data, we see so much opportunity with engaging the majority of that 112,000 folks. Our penetration rate or ridership is only around 6% of that. So 70% of that group, of that 6% not understanding, makes sense, especially when you sort of overlay that with sort of potential distrust with law enforcement or safety and security.
Right.
So one of the things we'll be
Comes
doing in
from
the next
this.
few years is really doing a robust sort of outreach plan for LEP riders and rider development in partnership with public affairs. And part of that will be helping people understand how to access safety and other resources through the system.
Okay. Director Frisbee?
Thank you. I think my question is in a similar vein as Director Graham's, and also less question, more of a comment. So sorry, I know that's annoying. Um, as we enter an era of looking to be more efficient and reduce spending, um, to me, that the opportunity in that is that it's not just about what are we cutting, but it's what are we doing differently. And I know, you know, having, 5 years ago tried to use some of the virtual translation tools, which at the time were frankly terrible. And then talking with folks at other transit agencies now who, given the rise of AI and some of those other opportunities, are having much better luck with them. I am hopeful that we are being expansive in what we are considering to better serve folks, and that the question we are rooted in is how are we serving people better, um, and can we do it for a lower cost while possibly actually just delivering a better product. I think we often just assume like, well, we're cutting and this is terrible and everything's going to be a little bit worse, but sometimes it presents an important opportunity to reevaluate how and what you're delivering. I have a lot of anxiety around AI. I am frankly a technophobe, as everyone in our IT department has experienced in trying to help me navigate various challenges. But I hope it seems like there's some opportunity in this team, and it sounds like you guys are thinking creatively. And I just want to validate that and push us to think in this moment, in this space in particular, but frankly across the board. Are there opportunities to deliver a better or a different product that is more useful for our community in a different way that might cost us a little less?
We're on the same page as you, and Christina has worked with, as she said, Dave Whipple and Anthony Cass from IT and this product of SmartLink to build a TriMet book of translations. So last year was basically translating and then verifying with community partners what the AI translation had created, so we have sort of a glossary of terms to make future translations faster and not needing that secondary review, which in time will be provide cost savings. So, but also Christina's ability to leverage 50 other practitioners, so that's the other regional governments, so we can borrow from their tools and their best practices, so we're not all recreating the wheel. And even, combining community engagement opportunities, so centralizing events, so not just transit, but transit, libraries, schools, all gathering together, which again, gives a better impact for the person attending, but also leverages everybody's time. So she's deep into that process, and I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah, thank you. And I can provide just a bit more granular detail that may help with the anxiety about using AI or machine translation. So one of the heavy lifts that we have been working on with our software was to increase that translation accuracy. And so we worked with a team of linguists that were local to our region and prioritized the types of translations and how work was being translated. So we incorporated a framework for that machine translation to function with, which specified what terms should be used for what language and what regional preferences for language are we considering. So for example, for Spanish, a majority of our writers are from Mexico or Southern America, and so we chose a region of Spanish that aligned with Mexico Spanish, not European Spaniard Spanish, which can conflict that. We also provided some framework in regards to the vernacular that is used to ensure that we were increasing our translations. So for example, we took the word writer, does not exist in Spanish, right? So we had to build a framework that says when you see the word writer and it's a noun, it's a verb, or an adjective, you use this, you use this, and you use this. And we did that for 5 languages, and we're continuing to grow that bank and continue to create that infrastructure. And in doing so, our translation accuracy went from about 35% to about 75 to 95%, depending on the language. And so we've been working very diligently with our community partners and our communities that speak those languages to ensure, again, that we are being culturally responsive and linguistically accurate in the work that we do, so that we can build that memory bank to pull from that work, which also decreases the cost of translations per word and builds that memory.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all your work and your thoughtfulness and like detail-oriented approach to this. And also just want to give major round of applause to the ideas of sort of coordinating public outreach events and opportunities with other local governments. That is the sort of thing that I think our public thinks is really easy. It's not easy. It's really hard. But it can make such a difference in terms of folks being able to participate and being able to really make sure we're not overloading our community folks. So thank you so much and really appreciate that feedback.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, I echo my colleagues and thank you for the work and the detail. The information that you've put together today for us is very, very informative. General Manager, any final piece? No?
We have great people that work
Yes.
at TriMet, and I really appreciate the updates.
Thank you. And our communities appreciate your work as well. Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Thomas.
Are we all done? I thought we had another one from John. No, that was both of them. Never mind. Thank you.